We are streaming again. Today is February 6, 2016, and we will do the days of Queen Esther, and we finished after 5 sessions the 7 last kings of Judah. And when we realized that the family of Esther and Mordecai was taken out during the time of Jehoiachin, we find that the story of Esther obviously is connected with the 7 last kings of Judah, which ties into the 7 thunders, which is our timeline that is being repeated now. All right. So with that, we will start with Queen Esther. But before we start with Queen Esther, we need to get some kind of like rules of understanding prophecy reviewed again. Specifically how line upon line works, how to understand the figurative delineation of prophecy, all right, and how all of it is needed for us to be able to understand the Queen Esther history and how it relates to our time. Okay? All right. As in the days of Queen Esther. Right, sometimes it's tough to find nice pictures. Tough to find pictures about Bible scenes. But this was not difficult. Wow, I saw this. I got to download this one and use this one. It's a nice picture. Remember, who's who here? Haman, Queen Esther, and Xerxes, which is Ahasuerus. And probably out there somewhere is Mordecai. Yeah, I was just thinking, maybe he's out there somewhere. Okay. All right. We'll start off by reading quotes from Ellen White. We'll do this in a little bit different format. We kind of go back to the format that we used to do when we did Daniel 11. One verse at a time, and then see how it connects. All right. But first, we'll do Ellen White quotes, Spirit of Prophecy quotes. All right. Oh, by the way, how many books in the Bible are titled for women? Ruth and Esther. There's two books in the Bible. Ruth and Esther. Yeah. Ellen White really does not comment very much about Ruth as a single book, in any of her, and as a chapter, for example. There is a chapter in Prophets and Kings, obviously, of Esther. Yeah. But when you read it, there's no details really of it, right? It's kind of like principles. I'm pretty sure it's really because we need to study for ourselves. Yeah. So she's not going to give us all the details that are here. This is all what you really need to know about it, Says you go and study it for yourself. All right. Selected Messages, page 339. The Bible has accumulated and bound up together its treasures for this last generation. The treasures are bound up in the Bible. All, it says all, right? All the great events and solemn transactions of the Old Testament history have been and are repeating themselves in the church in these last days. So the story of Esther it's in the Old Testament. Yeah. All right. Okay, let me. Our manuscript release, 17, page 1. Historical events showing the direct fulfillment of prophecy. All right. This is the definition of prophecy, okay? So, Jill, I'm going to ask you, what is the definition of prophecy?
Historical event showing the direct fulfillment.
Right. Was set before the people. And the prophecy is a what? It's a figurative delineation of events leading down to the close of this earth's history. Okay? Prophecy is a figurative. What is figurative?
It's a symbol.
Figurative means it is not literal and not direct. Means it's symbolical. Symbolic, not symbolical. Symbolic, right? It's symbolic, right? So you cannot use the literal and just bring it down to the end of time. No, you have to use it symbolically. All right? It's symbolic. What about delineation of events? What does it mean, delineation of events? What do you think?
I feel like the unfolding events, like distinctive lines.
Delineation of events, meaning it is actually put on a line. So the figures, the symbols, are actually put on a line. Right? So now you see a line with symbols on it. Right? And these are on a timeline. So that's one line, right? And that is the line that you compare with another line. Right? It has symbols, right? Okay? Right. So if I were to say, this is one of my favorite ones. How do you interpret the story of Balaam's foot is crushed by the ass he was riding between the two walls of the vineyard? How do you put that into our timeline? Obviously, you're not going to say, well, there's going to be somebody riding another donkey in the end time, No. Right? So you're going to say the false prophet's economy is crushed by an attack of the east wind while it is being restrained between the time of the midnight cry, when doublings happen, the marriage issue decree is made, right? Where the marriage institution is made void and the image of the beast test is being given life to, and the national Sunday law, when the Sabbath institution is made void and the mark of the beast is stamped. Well, that's the conclusion of what we actually been studying, right? So that's the figures that is, all the figures that was from the time of Balaam, you put that as symbols and you bring it down, and those symbols now mean something for our time, right? You're not going to look for a donkey now falling down in the end time, all right? Okay. So, what is the seven thunders? The seven thunders is a delineation of events. Well, so seven thunders is a what? What is a delineation of event? It's a prophecy, right? So seven thunders is actually a prophecy, which would transpire under the first and second angel's message. So it is a prophecy for our time, right? Mm-hmm. The seven thunders is the events that happened during the first and second angel's message. When was that? Millerite. So the events, figurative events of the time of the Millerites, is actually a prophetic for what is going to happen in our time, right? All right. Okay. The first and second angel's messages are given in 1843 and 1844, and we are now under the proclamation of the third. All three of these messages are still to be proclaimed. It is just as essential now as ever before that they shall be repeated. It will be repeated. So the events that are brought in through in the timeline. So if we can bring the timeline of Esther into the 7 thunders, that means it also will apply to our time, because the 7 thunders is a prophecy for our time, right? Okay. The work of God. Now these are all quotes that we are so familiar with, right? We're very familiar with this, doing this, having done this several times. So we can see we already know these texts. I mean these quotes. The work of God in the earth presents from age to age a striking similarity in every great reformatory or religious movement. So a religious movement is put on a line, and it is similar with every other reform movement, right? So there's a reform movement at the time of Jesus. There's a reform movement at the time of Moses, at the time of, you just name it, the time of Elijah. There's a time of Miller, our time. So all these will be movements that will be in parallel in those of the past. And the experience of the church in former ages has lessons of great value for our time. Now it makes it easy because God does not change. The unchangeableness of God is clearly seen. The similarity of his dealings with his people in past, present, should be studied. God repeats its past dealings. It is repeated over and over again. It makes it easy for us because history repeats itself. We do not have to be confused thinking that our history is different from past history. So what do they have to do? You need to go deeper and still deeper. You got to sink your deep. You have to sink your post deep in the study of the word. You have all classes of minds to meet, and as you teach the truth of the sacred word, you are to manifest earnestness, respect, and reverence. I like this one. Weed out storytelling from your discourses and preach the word. Don't. Wow. Yeah? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think I have to do this, I think it's important that we do this timeline over and over again so that we get familiar with it, All right. This is the long one with a lot of prophecies on it, all right? 1798 to 1844. That's the time when the first angel's message comes. Second and third angel's message. Fear God, give glory, for the hour of judgment is come. Babylon is fallen, is fallen. And then if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive the mark in the forehead and in his hand. That's the first, second, and third angel's message. And during the time of that being given, it is the 7 thunders, which is a delineation of events which transpires under the first and second angel's message. And this is the parable of the 10 virgins, which is the experience, according to Spirit of Prophecy, the 10 virgins parable is the experience of Adventists that has been and will be present truth till the close of time. In other words, it will be repeated again. It is sealed to those who reject truth and light. But God will give us understanding of it. And remember, the 10 virgins story is the last parable that Ellen White wrote in Christ Object Lessons, where 5 foolish and 5 wise, and the wise will understand. What is it that they will understand? Daniel 12, verse 10 to 12. Remember? What will they understand? The daily, right? 538, daily. The daily and the 1290. Daily starts at 538, ends at 1798, and that shows the rise of papacy, right? So they will understand the papacy. All right? And they will also understand 1335, right? That ends, 1335 ends at 1290 ends at the first angel's message. The 1335 ends at the second angel's message when the tarrying time starts, right? Blessed are those that tarry, right? That's the 1335. Okay, I'm looking for my cursor here. Here's my cursor. Okay. 391 years and 15 days. This time prophecy ends at August 11, 1840, and this ends the second woe, right? Which is the sixth trumpet that starts, the second woe starts 1449 and ends at August 11, 1840, right? Okay. And that is when the Revelation 10 angel comes down and brings the little book, right? Now here are the trumpets. 5, 4, 5, 6. This is the sixth trumpet with the second woe, right? The second woe ends August 11, 1840. All right? 1260 starts at 538, okay? Ends at 1798 also, right? So we have how many? 4 time prophecies there. They all end during the time period between 1798 and 1844. But we still have several more. The 2300 days ends at 1844, starts at 457. And that is the time of Ahasuerus, Artaxerxes. Artaxerxes' third decree. All right? So then this brings the timeline of the 7 Persian kings. 7 Persian kings. The 2300 days brings these 7 Persian kings into the 7 thunders through the 2300 day time prophecy. And this is Artaxerxes, this is Artabanus, and this is Xerxes. And Xerxes married the wise virgin Esther, right here. So the story of Esther is brought into the 7 thunders through these 7 kings, all right? And the 7 kings include Cyrus, Darius, Hystaspes, and Artaxerxes Longimanus gave the 3 decrees, typifies the 3 angels' message, right? All right, that's how it comes in. All right. Now we have another group of 7 kings, the last 7 kings of Judah. Starting in 677, when Manasseh means forget, he is brought in through the which time prophecy? 2520, brought in because the remnant of Judah will be gathered again. Right? They came out and they were gathered at the time of 457 physically, but spiritual they were gathered in the time of the 7 thunders, right? That is only if you believe in 2520. Don't believe in 2520, that doesn't work. All right? There's another 2520 because that's the 7 last kings. The last one is, which one was the last one of the 7? Hoshea. Right, this is Zedekiah right here. This is Hoshea. The 7 last kings of the north is Hoshea, right? Hoshea, the first one is Jeroboam. The last one, the 7th to the last is Jeroboam, and this is Hoshea. 723, he's taken by the Assyrians, and he is scattered, right? He is scattered but they are never gathered because why? They become the Gentiles. They become the Gentiles. But God said they will be gathered. So the Gentiles will be gathered someday. All right? And okay. So this is the 7 time prophecies that was brought into the timeline of the 7 thunders, the parable of the 10 virgins during the Millerite history. All right? And according to Ezra 7:9, the first day of the first month is when they made a call to come out of Babylon. So the first day of the first month is the call out of Babylon, meaning that's the first. Which angel's message is the call out of Babylon? Second angel's message. So first day of first month is the second angel's message. All right. Call out of Babylon to go where? To the old path, which is Jerusalem, right? Right. So when you say, okay, when you see a history, okay, it calls to return to the old path. Where do you put that? You put it at 9/11, right? Right. Because that's when the Revelation 18 angel, which is the combination of the first angel's message and the second angel's message. So the second angel's message is first given in that time period, first day of first month. So when somebody says first day of first month, when we're studying first day of first month, where do you put that? 9/11. When you say return to the old path, where? 9/11 also. Right, when it says, okay, so that's how you do it, okay? All right, so Ezra 7:9. First day of fifth month, now they actually arrive in Jerusalem, first day of fifth month. So now they arrive in Jerusalem, meaning the midnight cry can start, right? And because return to the old path, they have to wait until the midnight cry. So first day of first day of fifth month is midnight cry, right? And you know when you start midnight cry, then you know there's a doubling, right? And then all those things. When you see things are doubled, you put it at the midnight cry, all right? And the midnight cry, there's a marriage issue. So you know it's the beast, the image of the beast test, right? Image of the beast test is a false marriage between church and state, where the church controls the state. So there's a marriage issue, right? So that's at the midnight cry. This is how you do it. So when you start to understand where these figures are, where these symbols are, then you can put it, you can line them up, all right? Okay, but you have to make sure you know Ezra 7:9, because the Millerites, only after they figured out Ezra 7:9 were they able to understand the 10th day of the 7th month, which is the Day of Atonement, October 22, 1844. And because of that, they understood that's the Day of Atonement. That's the time of the cleansing, which is Zedekiah, which is October 22, 1844, and also typifies the National Sunday Law, right? Okay. And with Isaiah 23, 15 to 17, the papacy is forgotten for the duration of one king, right, which is America. And is forgotten all the way from 1798 when he's forgotten until the time that he is remembered again. He's remembered again at the Sunday Law here, right? So this is the time of America. What happened in 1798 is the Sedition Act. Remember Sedition Act? RC, remember a Sedition Act? When you can start discriminating people based on their ethnicity and their religion. Sedition Act. Started in 1798 already. Okay. All right. Now you bring in the time. 7 thunders are repeated in this time, in our time. So the 10 virgins, which is present truth until the end of time, is also repeated in our time also. Okay, Manasseh repeats in 1989 because this is Ronald Reagan. So 9/11 is when Islam is restrained. First day of the first month, the tarrying time starts. Return to the old path. All these things, right? Come out from Babylon. Another thing is when the Revelation 10 angel comes down, what does he have in his hand? A little book. When you have to you have to eat the little book, 9/11. What else do you do? What does he do when he come down with the little book? He comes down with a cloud, right? What does he mean? What happens when the tabernacle was made and the cloud comes down? You have to change of dispensation, but you also have to stay in your tent, right? So you have to stay in your tent. Starting 9/11 starts, you have to stay in your tent. And he comes with a rainbow, Revelation 10. What does it mean when you have a rainbow? There's a covenant, right? Because my bow is a covenant for you, right? It's the sign of the covenant, right? Because now the old guard, which is Ahab and Josiah and the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they are all hypocrites, and they are left behind in 9/11. There is now a new guard, which are the priests that have been called. And you will see that Esther is being called right here at 9/11. Esther is called, right? Esther will be a priest. So the priests are called at 9/11, right? And they will be the new guard, so to speak. They will have a new covenant, and their name will be changed. When there's a name change, 9/11 also, right? Then you have, 9/11 is also the time when the third woe is, which is the seventh trumpet. But the seventh trumpet starts even in 1844. The seventh trumpet starts, keep going, but the third woe starts at 9/11. So that brings in the seven trumpets, right? Yeah, the seventh trumpet. This is the seventh trumpet and the third woe. Okay, and then you have the midnight cry here, where the things are doubled, right? Marriage issue. And then the national Sunday law, where you have a Sabbath issue, right? Okay. Then the seven kings, which are repeated from here, are repeated here, are brought in again and repeated in our time also, right? Because these are the four generations of Manasseh, Jehoiakim, Jehoiachin, and Zedekiah. The four abominations that they did also is repeated again. And then the two sticks are joined when the seven kings of Israel's history is brought in, starting with Jeroboam. And then Jeroboam means a little flock will contend, and then there'll be Zechariah here, which means remember the Sabbath day. They will start. That's the Sunday law, right? But also, who also will be remembered at the Sunday law? The papacy. He was forgotten here, 1798, right? For the time of America. America falls here because he proclaimed a Sunday law. National apostasy will follow national ruin. So he is ruined here. And the papacy is remembered right there. And the seven kings of Israel will go all the way down until the universal Sunday law. So there's going to be decrees. There's going to be decree here, going to be decree here, going to be decrees here, decrees here. And all these decrees we will study with the story of Esther. And there's the priests that are called here, and there's the priests that are Levites that are called here. And then these here are the 11th hour workers that are called first at the midnight cry, and then they will join together at the Sunday law. All right? And probation for everybody will have closed for everybody when Michael stands up. Okay. So, yeah, just do that over and over again, and then we'll see the big picture. Okay? All right. This Prophet and Kings, yeah. If you read the story of Esther as the days of Queen Esther in Prophets and Kings, the trying experience that came to God's people, all right? God's people in the days of Esther were not peculiar to that age alone, right? The Revelator, looking down the ages to the close of time, has declared, the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandment of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Ooh, who's the dragon that was wroth with the woman? Yeah, it's in a sense it's actually Satan, but the dragon is America, right? Yeah. Keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ, Revelation 12:7. Some who today are living on earth will see these worlds fulfilled. The same Spirit, I see. So you're talking about the Spirit. You take the spirit of what happened during the time of Esther. It will be the same spirit of what will happen to people in the end time. In the ages past led men to persecute the true church, will in the future lead to the pursuance of a similar course toward those who maintain their loyalty to God. Even now, preparations are being made for the last great conflict. So has the preparation for Sunday law been going on? Prove it from a line upon line. Oh, okay. All right. That's not fair. But I'm going to tell you how. Because at the time of Balaam, when did they start making plans to curse God's people? When they arrived at the mountain there? Or, way back when they sent, he sent his, what? Yeah, he sent his ambassadors to come and curse. And invite. He invited his ambassadors, his representatives. The king sent his representatives to Balaam. Yeah, I want to curse you. I want to curse the Israelites, right? Come and curse because you have the gift to curse. So he was inviting, who's Balaam? The false prophet. When you line that up, that's before 9/11, right? So the plans to curse God's people was already happened before. And you see that in the story of Balaam already. Right? And then you will see this also in the story of Esther. Sunday law could have happened if not for the providence of God, right? In our time, what's the providence of God that delays 9/11? 9/11. Because what? We're not ready, right? Even now, preparations are being made for this last great conflict. The decree that will finally go forth against the remnant of God will be very similar to that issued by Ahasuerus against the Jews. Very similar, all right? Okay. The lamb-like horn and dragon voice of the symbol point to a striking contradiction between the profession and the practice of the nation thus represented. Oh, it's America. It's a contradiction of what America is supposed to be and what it actually is, right? The speaking of the nation is the action of its legislative and judicial authorities. Okay, meaning it's not. What are the three governments, RC? The three branches? Legislative, judicial, and? So it doesn't matter who the president is, right? Right here it says, it depends on who the legislation and the judicial, who's going to be at the Supreme Court and who's going to be in the Senate and the what? And the Congress. Because they're the ones that are going to make the law that eventually. Watch out for the Republican Congress, all right? And when the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court is already mostly Catholic already. right? But such action, it will give the lie to those liberal and peaceful principles which it has put forth as the foundation of its policy. The prediction, right, is a prediction, that it will speak as dragon and exercise all the power of the first beast, plainly foretells a development of the spirit of intolerance and persecution that was manifested by the nations represented by the dragon and the leopard-like beast. So you have to see the spirit of the dragon and the leopard-like beast and the spirit of Haman, right? And then you bring that spirit into our time. The Lord has shown me clearly the image of the beast. The church and the state will gather together with the state being controlled by the church. That's the image of the beast. Will be formed before probation closes. For it is to be a great test for the people of God by which their eternal destiny will be decided. All right. Revelation 13, the subject is plainly represented. This is the test that the people of God must have before they are sealed. All right. To be sealed, you have to go through a test first, right? So you are called to come to a test. You are called to be tested so that you can be sealed. You have to be called first to that test. All who prove their loyalty to God by observing the law and refusing to accept a spare Sabbath will rank under the banner of the Lord Jehovah and will receive the seal of the living God. Those who yield to the truth of the heavenly origin and accept the Sunday Sabbath will receive the mark of the beast and rank under the banner of Satan. If the reader would understand the agencies to be employed, there you go. You have to understand the agencies that are being employed, which is? Right, the judicial and legislative, as well as of what is going to happen now. And you see this story, and they will have the same spirit as Haman already, right? He has but to trace the record of the means which Rome employed for the same object in the ages past. If he would know how Papists and Protestants unite, will deal with those who reject their dogmas, let him see the spirit which Rome manifested toward the Sabbath defenders. All right?
Just waiting now.
Yeah, they're just waiting for the right time to come out. Right? Yeah. Okay. What happened before? This is how they actually did it. Right? Okay. We've read this many times. Right? How the Sunday law happened during the time of Constantine will be the same way. Right? As the papacy became firmly established, the work of Sunday exaltation was continued. Right? First, it says, okay, you have to keep both. And then you can't do things on Sunday. And then you have to do things on Sunday. You can't do things on Sabbath. And pretty much Sabbath is pushed down and Sunday is elevated. What will they lose? They have to refrain from common labor and they have to work. They lose their half of their estates and they are being made slaves and they're banished where? Doesn't this remind you of the story of Joseph? Yeah. Exactly. This is the story of Joseph. See that? Now you have to work for the Pharaoh, right? You sold yourself. You sold your cattle. Money is what? Money fails. Money fails. And then you lose your estate. You have to sell your estate. And you are being made slaves. And you are banished to the cities. A time is coming when the law of God is in a special sense made void, right? By the Sunday law, and national apostasy will be followed by national ruin. That's the Sunday law. Okay. As America, the land of religious liberty, shall unite with the papacy enforcing the conscience and compelling men to honor the false Sabbath, the people of every country on the globe will follow. We'll see this. So it first starts here, and then everywhere will follow America, right? The substitution of the false for the true is the last act in the drama. When the substitution becomes universal, see, it first is national here in America, and it becomes universal. When the laws of men are exalted above the laws of God, when the powers of this earth try to force men to keep the first day of the week, know that the time has come. This is the tinkling of the bell in heaven. You can hear it because you know that the time has come. When you see these laws are being exalted and church and state has come together, you are actually hearing the tinkling of the bells in the most holy place, right? It's spiritual. It's spiritual. You can't hear the tinkling bells physically. It's literal because you can see prophecy. This is the tinkling of the bells. All right? The lessons learned from the Hebrew boys on the plain of Dura, right, is for our time. It is inspired by Satan. Nebuchadnezzar's decree is inspired by Satan. Especially will the wrath of man be aroused against those who hallow the Sabbath of the fourth commandment, and at last a universal decree of death, right? This is talking about the universal death decree, right? It will lead to the universal death decree. And we'll study that in Esther. There's going to be a death decree, right? Okay. Now we're going to go a little bit into the kings. The kings. We won't do it in very great depth. Just try to kind of background of who the king is. Before we were still, I remember when we did Daniel 11, when we went to Daniel 11 verse 2, and we say, who is actually Ahasuerus? And some say it was Darius. And maybe, could it be Xerxes? You know what? We forgot to just look at Ellen White in Prophets and Kings. Ellen White says it's Xerxes, okay? We're saying, wait a minute, could it be Darius or could it be Xerxes? We're not really sure who it is. Yeah.
We didn't cheat that time.
Yeah. We didn't go to the Spark Notes. Darius Histopes, under whose reign the Jews had been shown marked favor. How were they shown marked favor under Darius? In the second degree. It says you can go back, all right? That's the second degree. They were given favor, right? But now the kings change, right? Like time of Joseph. The time of Joseph, the king was good. But at the time of Moses, the kings have changed, all right? Those kings are different now. Was succeeded by Xerxes the Great. It was during his reign that those of the Jews who had failed of heeding the message to flee were called upon to face a terrible crisis. They say, during the time of Darius, it says, go home, go home. And what did they do? Only a few went home. The whole bunch of them stayed, and they did not. And those who stayed were eventually have to face a terrible crisis at the time of Esther, right? Because it was Zephaniah. We'll see this. Zechariah, that told them, go home, go home. Yeah, it was Zechariah. Through Haman the Agagite, an unscrupulous man and high in authority. High in authority, there you go. In Medo-Persia, Satan worked at this time to counter-work. There's a counter-work to the purpose of God. Haman cherished bitter malice against Mordecai, a Jew. Mordecai had done Haman no harm, but had simply refused to show him worshipful reverence. Oh, I don't want to reverence you. Scorning to lay hands on Mordecai alone, Haman plotted to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai. Misled by the false statements of Haman, Xerxes was induced to issue a decree, right? Yeah. Providing for the massacre of the Jews scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of Medo-Persia kingdom. A certain day was appointed. This is what? What decree is that? This is the death decree. Okay. This is the death decree. Okay. But the plots of the enemy were defeated by a power that reigns among the children of men. Right? Because there was who came as an intercessor? Esther. Oh, Esther plays the type of Christ then. Right? Yeah. And this is the most famous words of Mordecai. Who knoweth, said Mordecai, whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Who knew that you were brought in just for this one specific reason? You know, it's for us. And I've repeated this to our children. You know, who knows that you are actually brought in for such a specific time? Yeah. God will actually have a plan just for you. Just like Esther. There's a plan just for you. And you are going to be put in positions where you did not even know that you were brought in. Because if you are not here, somebody else will be there. Right? Because God has a plan already. And if you don't step up to the plate, somebody else will. All right? Yeah. Okay. The events that followed in rapid succession, the appearance of Esther before the king, the marked favor shown her, the banquets of the king and queen with Haman as the only guest, the troubled sleep of the king. You remember the story, right? Yes. The public honor shown Mordecai, the humiliation or fall of Haman upon the discovery of his wicked plot. All these are part of a familiar story. All these fit into the timeline. All right? So let's do the timeline again. Here's our timeline, right? 1989. What happened 1989? First angel's message came. Ronald Reagan, all right? Yeah, so papacy is forgotten. Sedition Act of 1798. Antichrist is forgotten. Ronald Reagan. Berlin Wall. Right? First angel's message empowered comes down with the little book. Combined with the second angel's message makes the fourth angel. All right? That's what do you have here? First day of the first month, 9/11. Right? What else? Eating the little book. Return to the old path. A new covenant. A new name. Staying in the tent. Tearing time starts here. All right? The Patriot Act. There's going to be a worldwide message. Was 9/11 a worldwide message? Oh, yeah. It was worldwide. All right. Then the second angel message empowered, and the third angel's message comes at the midnight cry. So here, there's a doubling right here, two messages. But there's also a doubling here, right? So just remember that, where does it actually fit? You will figure it out when you actually put it into the lines. There's a image of the beast test right here. And then the third angel's message empowered. Now, this is the perfect fulfillment of the first, second, and third angels. Because it was not perfectly fulfilled during the time of the Millerites. Why? There was not any, Jesus didn't come, but there was no Sunday law. Right? Sunday law only comes here. This is the perfect, we are living in the antitypical time. All the types, all of that were in the, we are living in these are the fulfillment of the types. We are living in the fulfillment of the types. Because at the time of the Millerites, it was the fulfillment in the prophetic times, right? Because all those prophecies, the 7-time prophecies, they were all fulfilled in relation to time at the time of the Millerites, right? But now we're not living not in relation to time. We are living in relation to fulfillment of types in in figures, right? So now you understand that. It's in figures, but it's in relation to type. Okay. So now we'll finally start. Yeah, that's a long introduction. But we have to do this so that we will understand all those times and types and lines, right? We'll go back to when we studied Daniel 11 verse 2, because this is another time when Ahasuerus or Xerxes is mentioned, right? Other than obviously in the book of Esther. He's also mentioned in Daniel 11 verse 2 and 3, actually. So we'll go through there. Daniel 11 verse 2. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all. So which one is Xerxes? It's the 4th one. Is be far richer than they all. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. Remember, he is... Okay, here we go. The 3 kings are Cyrus, Smerdis, Darius Hystaspes, and the 4th one is Xerxes. And he is famous for his riches and his generalship. His riches more than his generalship. And it is because he decided to go and fight against who? Greece. With how many people did he go? 5,283,220 men. This is just amazing. 5 million men, he went and fought Greece. And what happened to him? He lost. Can you imagine that? He was a poor general.
How did they calculate to like the exact 220?
It was actually written in history. That's amazing. Xerxes. He was very rich, and he decides to go attack Greece. Because even with 5 million people, he lost still. It's incredible. As Xerxes looked over that, I better move here, the vast concourse, he said that he is said to have wept at the thought that in 100 years from that time, not one of all those men would still be left alive. Because what happens? Alexander the Great came and annihilated them all. And he burned Persepolis. Remember Persepolis? He burned it in a drunken debauchery time. He decided to burn Persepolis because what they did. So he was remember what Xerxes did to his kingdom. So you burn our capital, we're going to burn your capital too. Right? So it was Xerxes. What Xerxes did came back and haunt his kingdom. He was a poor general. The number 4 prophetically signifies the end of the kingdom. This was our summary, right? There are many kings in Persia, but the prophecy marked that it was the 4th one who signaled the end of the Persian Empire by attacking Greece. Foolishly attacking Greece in a very unmilitary sound tactic. So Cyrus had a son, his name is Cambyses, who was murdered, who murdered his brother Smerdis to attain to the throne, but then later died from an infection as a result of accidentally wounding himself with his own sword. Terrible. Yeah, not very good generals. The false Smerdis was an usurper, who claimed to be the brother Cambyses murdered, a deception that was not difficult to conceal as Persian kings rarely was seen in public. He reigned for 7 months after Cambyses died and in turn was murdered when the plot was unraveled. Because he was only king for 7 months, he was not counted in the canon of Ptolemy, because canon of Ptolemy only counts those who would reign more than a year, right? So Darius Hystaspes, which is Darius the Great, was the chosen king from among the Persian Magi who married Atossa, the daughter of Cyrus, the widow of Cambyses, who later also married Smerdis, impostor, so as to keep the kingdom in the family of Cyrus. Darius made the second decree for the restoration of the Jews in 519 BC. Right? So Darius was the king that made the second decree. The first one was Cyrus, right? And that ended the 70 years. Right, okay. All right, so this is the picture, the statue. Well, if you go to Iran, you can still see this, because this is Darius, and behind him is his son Xerxes, right? Then obviously they're taking tribute from countries because they ruled a very big empire. Okay. Right. Xerxes, the heir from Darius and Atossa, amassed great coalition army and went to attack Greece in 480 BC and was completely defeated. Afterward, his son Artaxerxes Longimanus issued the third decree to reestablish Israel as an autonomous state in 457 BC, which starts the which time prophecy? 2300, right? Which is the starting point for the 2300-day prophecy. And the 490-year prophecy of Daniel, which is the 70 weeks, right? However, Artaxerxes turned out to be an ambivalent on the project, but Nehemiah was able to gently secure a fourth decree from him in 445 BC to finish the rebuilding. So there's 4 decrees, right? We usually just say there's 3, but there's actually 4, because there's also the 4th angel's message. Right, okay. All right, so here is the timeline in vertical. Okay. In vertical. Okay, we did this before, but this time I revised this to include 7 kings rather than 3 kings. All right, 1096 BC, Saul was made king. And the last 7 kings of Israel are the names right there, Jeroboam to Hoshea. In 723, Assyria took them away, and this began their 2520, right? And they were never gathered, right? Until spiritually the Gentiles will be gathered. All right? And then the last 7 kings, Manasseh until Zedekiah. Until Zedekiah, right? Manasseh started in 677, right? When did Nebuchadnezzar come? During which time? I'm pointing right there. Jehoiakim. What year was that? 606. Yeah. What is significant about 606 is that is 490 years from Saul until Jehoiakim. That's 490 years that they did not keep, their land did not keep the Sabbath. That's why they have to be sent out of their land so that their land can rest for 70 years, right? Okay. That's the principle of 2520. From 1096 to 606, 490 years. So from here, you have to count down 70 years. Oh, that's many generations. That's a lot. Yeah, that's... Nebuchadnezzar, right, came. So this is now the crown moves from Judah to Nebuchadnezzar, right? Yeah. And the last king is Belshazzar, who had a party. And he drank from the vessels of gold. And that night, who came? Cyrus came. And remember, Cyrus is the king that gave the first decree, right? There you go, my decree there. My symbol for a decree. All right, Cyrus. Okay, and that was the Cyrus decree. Has the first decree to come out will be the end of the 70 years, right? That's 536. And 536 at the end of the 70 years. Right? 536, Cyrus Decree. Okay. So now the crown is given to Cyrus. So from Judah is given to Nebuchadnezzar, is given to Cyrus. From Judah, given to Babylon, given to Medo-Persia. So Cyrus is the king of Medo-Persia, right? But wait a minute. Who was the king of Babylon at the time of Daniel when he was thrown into the lion's den? It was Darius the Mede. Darius the Mede was the king of Babylon. He was actually kind of like the governor of Babylon. Cyrus was the king of Medo-Persia. Darius the Mede was the so-called king of Babylon at that time. Right? It was like a province. You would think of it kind of like the city of Babylon. He's the king there. Right? And Darius the Mede. Remember, there's Cambyses is the son of Cyrus. And then false Smyrdes, only for 7 months. He's the usurper. And the king in 590 who gave the second decree is who? Darius Hystaspes, which is Darius the Great. Right. Hystaspes. Right. And then Ahasuerus, which is Xerxes, is the son of Darius, right? And this is the king that married Esther. Darius was then killed by Artabanus. Artabanus only reigned. He was a minister, and he reigned only for a few months. And then the son of Ahasuerus, which is Xerxes, became king. And that's Artaxerxes Longimanus. Oh my, what is blocking is 457. Anyway, 457. Artaxerxes Longimanus. So there's how many kings? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So these are 7 kings, 7 kings, 7 kings. All right. The 3 last kings. These are the 3 kings that made the decrees. All right. Okay. And according to the canon of Ptolemy, right? This is obviously a what do you call it? A secular history. According to secular history, but dates all the way back from Nabopolassar, 625 BC. Here are the kings. So this is Nebuchadnezzar, as actually called Nebuchadnezzar II, from 604 to 562 BC. And Belshazzar is Nabonidus, 559 to 539. Changed to Cyrus the Great, 536. Maybe I should remove, I'm going to have to move myself. I'm on the right here. It's blocking the way. All right, here you go. Cyrus the Great, Cambyses II. Here are the dates. This is all secular history, and it fits perfectly with what the Bible says, the biblical history. Here are the 4 kings then. Cyrus, Cambyses, Darius, Xerxes, and an Artaxerxes. Right? You remember this graphic that we did when we did Daniel 11.
5 kings then. Cyrus the Great.
Yeah. Here are the 4 generation kings. The 4 generations is Manasseh, Jehoiakim, Jehoiachin, Zedekiah. Here are the 4 generations of kings. These are the 4 prominent kings. But the 4th king signals the downfall of the Medo-Persians, because after that, all the other kings were never nearly as great as Xerxes. Right. Okay. All right. Psalm 78. Mashish of Asaph. Give ear, O my people, to my law. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in a parable. Okay. So we see, now when we learn the story of Esther, we realize that the story of Esther is kind of given in a parable, a story, because the king, which is King Ahasuerus, will actually typify Jesus. Wait a minute. King Ahasuerus, he's really not a good general. How could he typify Jesus? And he holds a feast, and he gets drunk at that feast. What? How could he typify Jesus? So then when you start studying in that way, you start having conflicting ideas in your mind, and you say, well, this doesn't make sense to your what? Okay? Because it's kind of like in a parable. But this parable, when you read Psalms, this parable, you have to teach it to how many generations here? I will open my mouth in a parable. This is like Joel, like the book Joel 1 verse 2. I will utter dark sayings of old, which ye have heard and known, and our fathers have told us. We will not hide them to their children. So that's us, our fathers and their children, showing it to the generation to come to the praises of the Lord and his strength and his wonderful works that hath done. For he established a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers, all right, that they should make it known to their children, which is us, that the generation to come might note them, even the children which should be born, should rise and declare them to their children. So our father, us, the generation to come, our children, and their children. How many generations? 4 generations. That they may set their hope in God and not forget the works of God and keep his commandments, and might not be as their fathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation that has not set their heart aright, and whose spirit was not steadfast with God. So it's going to be a parable that we have to teach our children and their children unto the 4th generation. Right. All right. Why is it important? How do you study parables? Okay, this concept, it's pretty beautiful concept actually. It starts out in John 3. Jesus answered and said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. And wait a minute, this is the story of Jesus telling a parable to who? Nicodemus, right. And the problem is that Nicodemus could not understand and differentiate between the natural and the spiritual, right? He says, well, how could I be born again? What was he referring to? The natural birth, right? But when Jesus was actually talking about the spiritual birth, right? Except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. So Jesus was talking not about the natural, but the spiritual. The wind bloweth, but how does he illustrate the spiritual? By going to the natural, by the wind. The wind bloweth where it listeth, and thou hearest the sound thereof, but canst not tell when it come, and whither it goeth. So it in everyone that is born of the Spirit. So he's talking about the Spirit by illustrating it with the natural. If I have told you earthly things, natural things, and ye believe it not, how shall ye believe if I tell you of spiritual things? Right? I'm going to teach you of natural things so that you can understand spiritual things. Right? But don't get stuck on the natural. You have to move on to the spiritual. Right? Okay. All right. Daniel 9:23. At the beginning of thy supplications, the commandment came forth, and I come to show thee that thou art greatly beloved. Therefore understand, and the understand here is bin. Understand the matter. Matter is dabar. All right? Dabar. You have to understand. Understand here is bin, means to distinguish or mentally separate. All right? So, Daniel, you have to mentally separate the matter, which is the dabar, from the vision, the natural from the spiritual, right? The matter here is this is the Chaozon vision from the Mare vision, right? All right. This is the appearance, The vision is the appearance. Here's the prophetic. So the prophetic from the appearance. You have to be able to distinguish the matter from the vision. The what? The earthly from the heavenly, from the natural and the spiritual. All right? It's very important. 2 Timothy 2 verse 15. We know this text very well. But in the past, I really never understood what it really meant. Until now. Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. You heard many ministers say this? Rightly dividing the word of truth. Meaning, you divide between the natural and the spiritual. Right? Divide the word of truth. What does that mean? To distinguish. Like what, to bin, to distinguish. To mentally separate the chaoson from the mare, the natural from the spiritual, from the earthly and the heavenly. You have to be able to distinguish those things, all right? Right. That's rightly dividing the word of truth. And so it is written, the first man Adam was made a living soul. The last Adam is a quickening spirit. So this is the natural and this is the spiritual. Howbeit that not first which is spiritual, but that which is natural. The first is natural. Adam is natural. And after that which is, Jesus is spiritual. The first man is of the earth, earthy. The second man is the Lord from heaven. As is the earthy, such are they also that are earthy. As is heavenly, such are they also that are heavenly. And as they have borne the image of the earthy, we shall also bear the image of the heavenly. Now this I say, brethren, that the flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God, neither doth corruption inherit incorruption. Natural first, spiritual afterwards. Natural will be done away with, and then the spiritually will come into effect, right? So it's in so many things, right? Natural first, spiritual second. Okay, I got to move here. I got to move to the left. All right. And the Lord spake unto Aaron, saying, do not drink wine nor strong drink, thou nor thy sons nor thy sons with thee, when you go into the tabernacle of the congregations, lest ye die. If you drink wine, this is talking about the natural, the spiritual. Lest ye die. It shall be a saddle. It will be a statute forever, throughout your generations, that ye may put difference between the holy and the unholy, between unclean and clean. So what happens when you drink wine? You will have the inability to separate the natural from the spiritual, right? What happens when you drink the wine of Babylon? Same thing. You cannot discern between the holy and the unholy, the unclean and clean. So this is what it means by being drunk, right? Being drunk means you cannot discern between the natural and the spiritual. That's what it means. You cannot discern between natural and spiritual, right? So when you start mixing the natural and the spiritual, you're starting to be drunk with the wine of Babylon. So, now, wow, that was a long introduction. Yeah? Because it's very important. Yeah, because when I studied this, putting this together, and looking at the school of the prophets, it was a big problem because a lot of them in the beginning could not separate. Wait a minute, Ahasuerus is he's kind of a stupid king. How could it be Jesus? You know? And Vashti, I don't know how to, Vashti or Vashti? Vashti, well, she's supposed to be, she's the woman, she's the church. well, she did the right thing. Ellen White said she did the right thing, but she refused. But actually, she's about to be divorced. So, to resolve it in your mind sometimes gets a little difficult because you have not graduated to the point that you can discern between the natural and the spiritual. You have to be able to take the spiritual and apply it. So, that's actually very important. I actually got caught up with that too because, wait a minute, it doesn't make sense. Because you don't separate the natural from the spiritual. All right. Okay. So, we'll start with Esther 1. You know what? I need to drink a little bit. Did we start a little early? How come it feels so long?
Yeah, we started at
Yeah, because I'm already at 1:29. It's only 1 hour and 30 minutes. You know what? I'll do one verse and then we'll stop. And then next week we start officially. Yeah. Yeah, because I look at my clock here, 1:29. House. Drinking not the wine of Babylon.
You're drinking the wine of Adam. Water.
Yeah. Oh boy. The rest and refreshing. What is the rest and refreshing? Line upon line. Line upon line. The rest and refreshing is line upon line, right? Okay. Esther 1 verse 1. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus. This is Ahasuerus which reigned from India even to Ethiopia, over 127 provinces.
Who was great area?
Oh, Medo-Persia. Medo-Persia conquered all the way to India, and Medo-Persia was huge. But then actually Greece got even bigger, right? But Medo-Persia was huge, big. All the way to India, even to Ethiopia. Wow. 127 provinces. Okay, I have to look at my notes here. All right. Okay. Ahasuerus. All right. What does Ahasuerus mean? Okay, we'll do that. We'll do that in the next slide. But we'll do the 127. Well, anyway, Ahasuerus actually typifies Jesus, right? All right. 127 provinces. What does 127 province mean? Actually, there's only one other verse in the Bible that actually talks about 127. Yeah, we'll do that right here. Xerxes the first, he reigned from 585 until 465. That's according to the canon of Ptolemy. 20 years. But the thing about it is that, remember that in 480, he decides to attack Greece. The 5th year. In his 5th year, he attacks Greece, all right?
He would have lasted longer if he didn't do that.
Oh, yeah, probably. Yeah. But anyway, 485, Xerxes. And Ahasuerus means lion king. Huh. Lion king. Simba. Or prince of the people. All right. So who's the lion king? Who's the lion king? The lion king. He's actually, all right, Jesus. Revelation 5:5. The lion of the tribe of Judah. He is the root of David, who opens the 7 seals. This is Jesus, right? He is the lion king of Judah. Lion of the tribe of Judah. Who's the prince of the people? Who's the prince of the host?
Jesus.
Right. Against him the daily was taken away. Daniel 8:11. Who's the prince of the host? Jesus. So Ahasuerus, only by his name already, you know that is typifying Jesus. Yeah. And Sarah was 127 years old. These were the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died in Kirjatharba. The same is Hebron in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and weep for her. Well, this is actually Ahasuerus or Xerxes. He had 127 provinces. So what does Sarah's 127 years have to do with anything? And Kirjatharba, okay. Sarah is obviously a woman. And a woman means a church. And the church died in Kirjatharba. What does Kirjatharba means? The city of four. The city of four. The city of four. Kirjatharba, four. The city of four. The city of four. When she say the woman dies at city of four, we had several fours. Fourth generation. Sarah dies, the church dies at the fourth generation, right? The four symbolizes the downfall of the kingdom, remember? The four, because he was so great because he plundered the whole nation, 5 million people. And from there on, his kingdom is on a downward slope, right? So it's like the woman also dies at the fourth generation. After Xerxes, it was no longer in his glory days, no more. Okay, Esther 1 verse 2. Oh, this is such a nice graphic, I have to show it. Right. And in those days, when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan the palace. All right. What does Shushan mean? Shushan means lily or a trumpet. Doesn't it look like a trumpet? Yeah. A lily means a trumpet. So, all right. Who's the lily of the valley? I am the rose of Sharon, the lily of the valley. Who is that? It's Jesus. So Ahasuerus' palace is also in Shushan, which is the lily. So this is why it shows that it shows that it's Jesus, right? It typifies Jesus. Because by the name Shushan, you know it's lily. And Jesus is the lily of the valley, the bright and morning star. Didn't we sing that? All right. All right. The bright and morning star, right? And who is it? Who is the last trump? Who will blow the last trump? In 1 Thessalonians 4:16. And the last trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first, right? It is the voice of the archangel. The mightiest archangel is Jesus, right? And Shushan is mentioned also in Daniel, right? And also in Nehemiah. But in Daniel it is mentioned in Daniel 8 verse 2. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in a vision, and I was at the river Ulai. Okay. So Daniel was in Shushan. Did Daniel ever live until the time of Xerxes and when they actually lived in that time? He actually did not live in the time, all the way into the time of Xerxes, obviously, right? Because that's like 150 years later. And Daniel was already old at the time of Belshazzar, right? He was already old. When it time to change to the Darius, he was already an old man. Right. So he actually saw in a vision, he was transported to the future.
To the future.
Right. He saw in a vision, he was transported to the time of Esther. Yeah. Right. In the province of Elam. What does Elam mean? Elam means hidden. Yeah. Elam means hidden.
Elamite woman.
Yeah. It time of the hiding. So there's a trumpet call at the time of Shushan in the time of hiding. All right. Where can you place this now? 9/11. Where's the trumpet? The third woe. Starting the time of hiding, right? So now just by these two words, with this verse, you already know that this is 9/11. So Daniel was transported to time of in the Shushan the palace with the time of Esther. Okay. The words of Nehemiah, the son of Hakaliah, and it came to pass in the month Chislu in the 20th year, as I was in Shushan the palace. So Daniel, Esther, and Nehemiah is the only times. That's what if you go to what is Shushan now, they will have a place where they said this is where Daniel is
This
buried.
will be in Iran.
It's in Iran.
No, close to the border of Iraq.
Yeah, yeah. So if you go to Shushan now,
Yeah, now.
they have this big place where they said the palace where they excavated and Daniel's burial place is there. Now, whether that's true, obviously, it's only speculation. All right. Okay. So we will just end right here because we will continue next week with going deeper into Esther. All right. So let me change the scene to the ending title.
Change the scenery.
Yeah.
We're gonna leave Shushan now.
We'll go to The Dragon is Wrath, ending title. So we will continue next week with Esther 1 and 2 and going through the whole book. This was just an introduction because we have to build up to it, okay?
You're so detailed, you made that one on white gray, right?
Oh, you like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah. Okay. Stop recording.